Fantastic. Well, hello, everybody. This meeting is being recorded. That way, if you want to go back and look over anything to refresh your memory, or if you wanted to take and share it with someone, that's perfectly okay. This will be on our USBE assessment YouTube channel. Welcome to the new Assessment Director Roundup. This is something new we're doing. In the past, we've always done everything all in one day, and it was a fire hose of information where we spent an entire day deluging you with all kinds of things about all the different tests. And so we've kind of spread it out this year with different trainings on different tests on different days. And this roundup is just an opportunity for you to get to know everyone on the Utah State Board of Education's assessment and accountability team, for us to tell you about the tests that we administer at the state level, and to give you some contact information on, who do you contact if something happens, right? If you have a question, if you have a problem. And so we have all that information from all of us here that work there to help you out in case you need it, which you probably will, and that's okay. The one thing we always tell people, and I think everyone from USBE will agree with this, is when you do contact us, don't apologize for contacting us. People do that all the time, and we're like, it's our job. Thank you for the job security. We're here to help you, and we're happy to help you, and we're happy to get your calls and help fix any problems that you've got. So there's no need to apologize that somehow or another you're magically wasting our time. You're not. It's because we're here to help, and we're happy to do so. So going forward, see if I can get this right screen to work properly. Woo! Our learning intentions today, you're going to learn who we are in assessment and accountability. You're going to learn about the assessments that we develop and manage. We're going to find where to access information about the tests, the schedules, where to get the test manuals, any guides that you need, and who to contact if you have a testing issue. Who do you contact if you have a reporting issue, rostering, accountability, or ethics issues or questions, right? And so any of those hopefully by the end of this, you'll be able to do that. So you'll be able to, we'll know you're successful when you're able to get that support when needed to administer those state assessments, to deliver accurate information to your testing coordinators at your schools, at the LEA level, and in your proctors, so you can disseminate this information down and provide needed support for teachers and schools that you work with. Now, we will say that the one thing we do hear a lot from, especially when we get calls from people at schools, is, I didn't know we were supposed to do that. Or my favorite one, and I'll admit to this one, when I started at USBE, I did not know there was this thing called an assessment director. 10 years in the classroom, never knew it existed. Never knew that that position was even out there. And so the one thing that we're trying to help is help give information that will hopefully work its way down to the classrooms and be useful there. So the people at your LEAs know that, number one, you exist, and that there is this pipeline of information where they can get that information from it. And so we're going to first talk off with our leadership. We have our assessment director on with us today, Sydney McCarty. Our TED development coordinator is Teresa McIntyre, and I don't see Teresa here today. I think she's at another meeting. I'm not hearing her too, so that's a good thing. I'm right.
Sorry, Teresa's actually doing a writing training with Dallas right now.
Right. That's what I thought. I knew that Teresa, Dallas, and Jared were going to be gone. I thought Teresa was too. I'm Scott Roskelley. I am the Test Administration and Data Coordinator. And so you're going to learn about our positions, what we do, and how we can help you. So you're up, Sid.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. Welcome. We're excited to see a lot of familiar names on here as well as some new names. So I'm excited over the next couple of hours to have those who are new get to know the team. We wanted to try and add some personal things about ourselves as well, so you can hopefully remember who are those people, what do they work on, who's the person I should be contacting for each of these things. So my name is Sydney McCarty. You can see email and phone number there. A little bit about me on our next slide. So professionally, I've been at USBE 10 years. The end of this year will be 10 years that I've been at USBE. I started here as the elementary ELA assessment specialist, and I was the development coordinator for several years before moving into the role that I'm currently at as the director of assessment and accountability. Before coming to USBE, I taught 7th grade English, 6th grade, 5th grade, 4th grade, and then I was an instructional coach for several years before moving to the district level and working with the coaches in Davis School District, and I taught in Ogden School District. I am a bonus mom of a 14-year-old. She's just starting 9th grade, so next Wednesday will be her first day, and we're excited for lots to come with changes in being in 9th grade. Things that I love traveling the world. These are all pictures from different places that we've traveled this year. I enjoy baking and cycling. I like jumping into water from reasonable heights. My guilty pleasure is watching some trashy TV. Real Housewives, any of the franchises are one of my guilty pleasures, but I also love a good true crime documentary. So looking forward to letting you know a little bit more about the rest of our team as well and introducing you to them. So Teresa is also, like Scott mentioned, she's actually doing a writing training currently, but Teresa is our assessment development coordinator. So she oversees the development team and works on any of the content of our state assessments. And then Teresa's background, she came to us after about 12 years of teaching in an elementary school, 3rd through 6th grade, and then she was also an administrator at a school for about 3 years before coming to USBE. She's been here at USBE about 3.5 years, and also started as the elementary Hilly assessment specialist and moved into the job as the test development coordinator. And she mentioned that USBE she works here at USBE on the best team. I agree, the assessment accountability department and the team here is the best that I've worked on. I really enjoy the people that are working here. And if you have questions, you'll find that people are so incredibly helpful and ready to answer those questions when you reach out. She's been married almost 29 years. She has 3 adult kids and a cute little dog. And she loves reading. She reads avidly, fiction. She likes eating chocolate. She also loves to travel. She does some amazing digital scrapbooking, so you'll have to ask her about that sometime. Baking, you can see an example of some of her baking skills there, and enjoying spending time outdoors. She travels a lot with her husband in their, they have a camper and a side-by-side, and they go out as often as they can exploring around in Utah. So that's Teresa. And then I think Scott is up next.
It's me. Yeah, so I've been at USBE now for 10 years. I started out as the science development specialist, and that was elementary. Back then it was elementary and secondary, so I got to do a lot of fun science stuff when the new science standards came out. My background is science and research. I went to school and got a degree in marine biology. I never thought I'd be teaching school, but next thing I knew, I think I tripped one day and woke up and I was teaching 8th grade. It was in Utah. It was really weird. There's no ocean or anything here. But had a great time doing it. I've taught CTE classes, computer science classes. I think the best thing I got to do is I actually got to teach a marine biology class at the aquarium for credit for any kid in the state that could make it to the class. It didn't matter what district they were in. And that was a lot of fun when the aquarium first opened to actually do that. And so I support the test administration team and whatever they need. I call myself their enabler. They let me know what they need, and I try to get it for them. And I also support you, the assessment directors. And so that's why you've got my address and my email address and my phone number there. Been married for 37 years, and I've got 4 kids and 3 grandkids. I love outdoor stuff also. I hunt, fish, hike, do scuba diving. I love to go out and they don't, well, it seems like there's a theme that we love to travel. You don't have to travel to work here, but we do like to travel a lot. Been to most continents. We're going to Italy next year, Africa in 2027. Our plans, like we actually traveled with my sister-in-law and her husband and have a lot of fun. And that's where some of my pictures there are. Believe it or not, I'm actually in the whitewater rafting picture on the back, holding a paddle, hoping I don't fall off the boat. And I do love the barbecue. We actually, in my backyard, have a barbecue pit. And I can barbecue up to 200-pound pigs in the pit. And so we like to do up to anything from just burgers and hot dogs to whole hogs. And so we do a lot of fun barbecuing and doing stuff like that. Okay, now we have our support staff. These are the people that really make the entire agency work for us. Everyone, like if you're here right now and you're on this right now, it's because we have an Emily, and Emily is awesome. And anytime you get information about what's happening, like with the AD meetings, the AD memo, we have Sandra, and Sandra also is awesome. So I'll let them talk about themselves.
All right. I'm hosting and somehow I still can't remember where my mute button is. I'm Emily Ing, and I'm the program specialist at USBE in assessment. I manage the USBE assessment website. So I put a link in there. Bookmark it because you will use it regularly. I manage our assessment YouTube channel. I've set up playlists for every assessment for all of our trainings that we do. We have a special playlist just for AD meetings. So subscribe to our channel, and that way every time I upload a new video for you guys, you will get a notification. I also manage Move It Access. A few of you guys have already started emailing me saying I need access. Now that I got my little monthly report for August, I can get, I'll be running a whole bunch of side-by-side information to make sure I get the ADs set up with Move It Access. That is limited access. I generally only let 2 people have access to it, but one is going to be the main contact, and then you'll have a backup person. Too many hands in the cookie jar with this kind of stuff, it turns into a mess. So Move It is limited. So next slide. And then a little bit about me. I feel like such an old lady. I've been here forever. I'm coming up on 20 years at USBE. And it doesn't seem real that I've been here that long. I've been in assessment for 12 years. I'm currently going to grad school in forensic anthropology, so absolutely nothing related to what I do at USBE. But if you want to talk about dead things, I'm all for it, and you'll have my full attention. I have 2 kids. They are 14 and 16, and my son just barely got his driver's license. And my kids go to school in Salt Lake City School District. And in whatever spare time I have, when I'm not studying or working, I like to go hiking and paddleboarding, and I play outside as much as I possibly can. And I'm also working on learning Norwegian on top of grad school. So that's me in a nutshell. Thank you. And if you need anything, reach out. My email address was on the previous slide. So thank you.
I think it's my turn. Hi, I'm Sandra Owen. I'm the executive assistant for the assessment team. I oversee the listserv and the AD memo and slide emails that you all get every week. I also do the Midas credit for our team and help with the bias and fairness reviews. And then I'm the main paperwork and contact for our A2A, all the back end stuff that happens with our A2A learning sessions that we do across the state. And if you're part of it, you know what that is. We start again every 3 years. So if you want more information about that, send me an email. I've only been at USBE for 11 months. It's been a great change for me. Before that, I was a attendance secretary at a really busy junior high for 13 years. And I was a little burned out and needed a change. So USBE has been a great fit for me. I also love to travel. One of the pictures on my slide is me in Italy. I'm going to France in a couple weeks. I also have 3 grown children, and I've been married for almost 29 years. And I love working at USBE.
Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the development team. If you don't know what the development team does, they develop those assessments for RISE and Utah Aspire Plus, and work on getting work with your educators to do that. And so sometimes you'll hear them asking for educators to come and work on their teams. I don't know who's going to be going over the development team slides because Teresa's not here. Seems like a member of the development team should do that.
I'm happy to do that. I would love to. So wanted to talk through a little bit about the development process for both the RISE and Utah Aspire Plus assessments. So it starts with passage selection. When we look at ELA specifically, our vendors select passages for potential use in the passage development that we use on our ELA tests. And then our team, both Megan and Dallas, will review and approve those passages to send on to educators. So it starts with our vendor, and then USBE reviews and says, yes, these are things that I think would be good for educators to review, or we provide feedback to the vendor before sending them on to the educator passage review. One thing that Utah, I think, is really different than other states, and something that I think we value a lot, is that we have educators involved in the whole process of any of our development plans. It's more expensive. We pay a little bit more money because we have people that write our items and that we own our items that are on our assessment, but it's something that we value because we have control over what's going on our test. So we bring in educators after we have reviewed those passages to also review the passages. And those teams of teachers come in from across the state. They review the passages, provide any feedback of saying like, yes, I think this is appropriate for students in these grades. These are the words that I think should be provided in a footnote or a glossary. These are the things that I think we want to steer clear of when we're writing questions versus things that may present good questions that align to the ELA standards. And then our vendors and USBE go through and implement any of that feedback that has been given by the educators in that development passage review. And then the next step for all other content areas are that we bring in a group of educators to start writing questions. So they write items, and we give them some item maps of here's a passage or here's some standards that we would need to develop items to. And then those items are put into the system by our vendor. And then the next step is we bring in an entirely new group of teachers to review any of those questions that were written. So we have different teachers come in and review the questions that were written by the other group of teachers. They review for alignment to the standards. They review for the content. They review to make sure there is really only one correct answer. We are not trying to trick students. We really do want to see what students know. And sometimes with distractors or things, we have this other group of educators review to make sure this distractor may be too close to being correct, or is this a common misconception that kids have, and that's why we'd want to have that as a distractor, because we want to see if the students know the real standard or the common misconception of that standard. So we have teachers come in and review all of those items that were originally written by the other group of educators. And then we also bring in a group of participants that review our items for sensitivity, bias, or fairness issues that are reviewed by Utah educators and community members that represent the different populations of students in Utah. So we have educators and people from community groups that represent different backgrounds and looking at things that maybe not all people from like a middle-class white background might understand from other students. That might be a sensitivity issue for different groups of students. But we also bring in educators for our students that with low vision or blindness or low hearing or deaf or hard of hearing, and review questions with those lenses in mind, as well as like our English learners. We have this fairness review, taking a look at what are items that may be sensitive or unfair to different groups of students. And then finally, we also have something in Utah that's legislated that's called parent review, where we have 5 parents that are nominated from the Senate, 5 that are nominated from the House, and 5 that are nominated from the State Board of Education. And those 15 parents serve a 4-year time commitment on this parent review committee, and they review any and all newly written items before they go forward to students on the test. And they review those items to ensure they're appropriate for students in Utah. So after an item makes it through all of those processes and all of those steps, it moves on to actually being field tested, being seen by students. So in the spring each year, we have a certain number of field test slots that are questions that we're testing them out for students in that grade level. After they're seen by students on those field test slots, and they're not part of what the student is scored on for that year, they're just being tested out. So we field test them, and then we go forward with one of my favorite meetings where, again, we bring in educators from across the state to do a meeting called rubric validation. And that's on any of our questions that are not like our computer scored items. So anything that's not like a multiple choice or multi-select kind of question, but something that requires a rubric to be able to be answered. And from our background as educators, many of us have had the experience where we give the kids an assessment and they come up with an answer that was not at all what we were thinking was the right answer, but actually would be a correct answer and something that we need to include in a rubric. So that rubric validation is a chance for us before that item goes live to take a look at how did the students actually respond to these questions, and then take a chance to say, okay, that actually should be considered correct and we need to include that on our rubric, or nope, that is not correct, that's a misconception, or that student is incorrect with that response. That should not be included as a correct answer. So we get to go through and say, oh, should we adjust our rubrics or not before they're actually finalized. Another favorite meeting that we have that we hold in the summer is called data review. And for anybody that's kind of a data geek, this meeting is interesting. We bring in, again, educators from across the state, and they take a look at the data from any of our newly administered or field tested items. And we take a look at how did that item perform? How difficult or how easy was that item compared to the other items on the test? And if we have some discrepancies on, okay, a student was getting most of the other answers correct on their test, and this one they got incorrect. So what was the discrepancy between a student who was getting this correct, or vice versa, a student who was missing a lot of answers, but they got this one correct? Does that jive with the rest of what other students were seeing or not? So we have a group of educators that come in and take a look. We also look at, outside of the p-values, we also take, that means the difficulty of the item. We also take a look at how different groups of students performed on this assessment. How did our males versus female students respond to this question? How did our EL students versus non-EL students respond? Our different demographic groups, to see if there were any unintended biases that we did not catch towards a specific group of students. And then our educators review that data and determine, is this data so far off we cannot use this item, or does this data match with what we would expect? And we can move forward with putting this item in our full bank of questions. And in some years, we also have standard setting. So this actually happened for ELA just this last week or so, where we had educators from across the state come in and give recommendations for where they think the ELA cut scores should be. So they take a look at the assessment, they take a look at the items on the assessment, they understand using the proficiency level descriptors what we would anticipate a student, how they would be able to respond, answer this question or not answer it correctly, and where they would recommend those cuts should be. So that happened just last week. We'll actually be taking those recommended cut scores to our full school board meeting in September. And if our board approves those recommendations for where those cuts should be, then our vendor for RISE will go forward and apply those cuts, and then we'll have student reports for ELA available in October. Now, like I said, that only happens when we have new standards that we're assessing. So this is fairly rare for ELA. The last time we did a standard setting was in 2014. So it's been over a decade that we had since we have changed the ELA standards and provided new cut scores. So that happens rarely, but it does happen. And then we're on track for new math standards and new assessments either in spring of 27 or spring of 28, just depending on when the new math standards are approved. And then after all of those steps, an item becomes operational. So there's a lot in the process of writing questions that go onto our state summative assessments. If you have questions about that, if you have educators that you think, wow, I think these people would be really great at being involved in any of these processes, always please reach out to us. We're always looking for new people, particularly our fairness, bias, sensitivity groups of people. If you have educators or people in the community that you feel like would be a great asset to our review team, please send their names to our assessment development folks.
Yeah, thanks, Sid. It's I remember when I first started in the development team, I told my friend my new job, and he goes, "Oh, so you just write questions?" I'm like, yeah, it's not that. If only it was that simple. It would be just a cakewalk, but it's definitely a very complicated process. Let's go ahead and start meeting our development team.
I love that you said that, Scott, because I've always told CAI, like, I want to make a slide that has a picture of Katie writing a calculus test and be like, not what happens. This is not how items become operational. I am Katie Bars. I'm the secondary math assessment specialist. So I am on the content development team that Teresa McIntyre oversees as our coordinator. My email and my phone number are there. However, I will put a plug in that email is going to be the easiest way to get a hold of me. I'm often in schools and meetings and trainings as part of my other job. I'm also one of the program managers for our Assessment to Achievement project. If you have any questions about RISE Math for grades 6 through 8 or Utah Aspire Plus Math grades 9 and 10, I am your contact person for those. And it's not on this slide, but I will also add, if you have any questions about math calculator use on either of those tests, I'm your person to ask about that too. So I love answering calculator questions. A couple of resources at the bottom of the page. That Math One pager has some very useful information about both RISE and UA Plus math and frequently asked questions such as what are rounding protocols? Where can I find resources about calculator policy, variable use, things like that are on that one pager. And then I also have a link at the bottom to sign up for our math assessment listserv. There's no commitment to subscribe to this. It just means that you're getting occasional updates and notifications for upcoming workshops where we need to recruit for some educators to come in and take part in all of those wonderful committees that Sid just went over in our development process. And I'll put a shameless plug in here right now. We are currently recruiting for secondary math 1, 2, and 3 development. And that information went out yesterday. So I will probably provide more of that next week at our regular AD meeting. So next slide. A little bit about me. I came from Jordan and Granite school districts. I taught for 11 years in junior high and high school setting, most recently at Skyline High School in Granite District, before I joined USBE in January of 2024. And also going to say that I love this team and I love working for USBE. This has been a great transition for me as well. I have 2 girls, 7 and 4, and so we are also in public school nowadays. We are in Canyon School District, where I am. I enjoy swimming, hiking, again, traveling. I guess that's a common theme with our team. Cooking and baking, reading when I have time. And I imagine I'm not going to be the only one that says they like Diet Coke on this team, but I have to have ice with mine. I will say that. Diet Pepsi will never cut it. I'm sorry if you're a Pepsi fan. Got to be Diet Coke. And of course, I love a good math joke. And if you really want to know what the punchline is to the one on the screen, I'm happy to say it. I'll do it. Okay. Did you hear about the mathematician who's afraid of negative numbers? They stopped at nothing to avoid them. Okay, I got a couple laughs at that, whatever. Anyway, okay, I'll move on.
All right. I am not Dallas, but I am very honored to be doing her introduction. So we see a lovely picture of Dallas Brooks here. Dallas is new to our team, but she has loved every second of it. And so Dallas, again, her email and her phone number are here. Just like Katie said, I would really reinforce email first. It's really hard for us to answer our phones, especially when we're in meetings, but we can always, sneak a peek at our emails and respond a lot faster. Dallas is our elementary ELA assessment specialist, and she oversees quite a few assessments. So she oversees PEEP, that's our preschool entry and exit profile or assessment. Not many of you will need to do this unless you house preschools in your district or LEA. She oversees KEEP as well. That's for kindergarten, again, entry and exit. Keep is no longer a required assessment, and I know Sid will jump in here anytime she's like, "Oh, she's saying wrong things," because this is not my specialty area. But kindergarten is not required, but LEAs can opt to use it if they choose. We have actually seen a lot of LEAs in districts still want to use it. So reach out to Dallas if you have questions about that. Then, of course, Acadience reading she oversees, and she partners on Acadience with Jared Wright. Acadience, again, reach out and she can help you with everything and anything on the Acadience reading side. And Acadience, for those of you that are new, used to be formerly known as Dibbles. There was a Dibbles divorce some years ago where one side went Dibbles and the other side went Acadience, and USBE, as a child of the divorce, we got Acadience got custody of us, I suppose, as a way to just follow through with that analogy. So we are an Acadian state. And then Dallas also oversees the development of our RISE assessment for ELA grades 3 through 5. And that is specifically grade 5 for writing for summative, but we do, of course, have benchmarks for all 3 grades. In the elementary grades. And of course, there are some one-pagers or links here for a little more information. A little bit of about Dallas, though. You're probably going to notice a theme right off the bat. She is our resident Disney expert. Every single one of these pictures is Disney. So, you know, if you need Disney tips, she's your gal. You know, maybe not during hours, send those emails, wait till after hours, and then I'm sure she'll be happy to engage in that. She has been in education for 11 years. She believes, and we all definitely agree, it's probably fact at this point that she did join the greatest team in the entire world. Probably the history of the world, dare I say. So she is very excited to have joined our team. She's one of our newest members. She just joined in February. She's been married for 11 years and she has 2 dogs, Myrtle and Birdie, and I believe they are little lap dogs that she loves very much. And she also does like to travel, and I do believe she loves is she, Katie, I think you can confirm this, is she also a Diet Coke gal?
I think she's more of a Dr. Pepper gal, if I remember correctly. And Sam's nodding along. Yeah, I think she might be a Diet Dr. Pepper gal.
Okay. All right. Diet Dr. Pepper it is. Dallas is a wealth of information and she is always happy to help. Basically, we all like soda, Jessica says, except, so now we'll move on where I get to actually introduce someone that I am an expert on, myself. I'm going to come right out of the gates. I wasn't allowed to drink soda growing up, so I'm not actually a soda gal. I like seltzer waters, kind of, but I wasn't allowed to drink it, so as an adult, it just kind of hurts to drink carbonation. I'm not quite sure I ever gained the skill of swallowing carbonated beverages. It's a learned skill over time that I believe your throat has to adapt to as a child. So back to me. I am the secondary language arts assessment specialist, Megan Lopez, and I also am our WIDA assessment specialist. Again, here is my contact information. You can reach out to me about secondary RISE, ELA, and writing. So again, specifically RISE summative. Writing is only for grade 8, but of course we have benchmarks for all of the grades. And then I oversee the development of our ELA test for 6th, 7th, and 8th. I also oversee our ELA or reading test for Utah Spire Plus for grades 9 and 10. There used to be an English test, but that has been retired after we had the standards revised in 2023. So And of course, there have been a lot of changes to ELA this year. There are one-pagers with all the information pertaining to RISE and UA Plus changes that took place. So I would encourage you to go ahead and hit that up. And then, of course, there is WIDA. I oversee our test administration for the screener and access for WIDA for all grades. And there is also a one-pager. So a little bit about me. I have been in education for 22 years. I've been at USBE now for about a little over 8 years. I have 2 kids, a son and a daughter. They are both, I'd like to say, cheeky. They definitely give me a run for my money. My parents would like to say that it's karma. I don't believe that whatsoever. But, you know, here we are anyways. Both of my kids are in Utah Public Schools. They attend Salt Lake School District. Our family is very, very outdoorsy. We love being outdoors. Someone in our family is pretty much always injured, including myself. We find ourselves keeping hospitals open and running year round. So that's always fun. Those of you that know me, we're huge University of Utah Utes fans. We have season tickets to tons of the sports, so you can find us out there. One thing that you're going to probably hear a lot of as you attend the assessment directors meetings this year is apology food. I am the lucky recipient of the first ever apology food person, I don't even know, I guess award. So there was a joke played on me that I was supposed to bring donuts to the team, and I felt so bad that I was like, I sent a calendar invite to everyone on the team saying, I'm going to bring my apology donuts to the next meeting. Here's my commitment to you in calendar format. And then I found out later it was all just a big joke on me. But the joke remained, and now everyone always has to apologize for something, and we will always have snacks and food and normally donuts at all of our meetings. So if you come in person, good benefits. And I'm always definitely happy to help all of our LEAs. Scott said it from the top. Please don't ever apologize. We want to be busy helping you. So don't apologize for taking up our time, because it's our job to support the LEAs of Utah. And I believe Sam is up next.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sam Tinky. I think I might be the newest member of the assessment team at USBE, but I am the secondary science assessment specialist, and you'll see, just like the others, my email and phone number there. Again, I'm much more reachable at my email than I am at my phone number. Somebody called me for the first time the other day, and I was trying to figure out where it was coming from, and it was quite funny, but I was in a meeting, so I wasn't able to answer. So please reach out, and if you don't get through on the phone, please always reach out in email. I will make sure to respond to you as well. So if you have any questions about RISE 6-8 Science, I'm your gal, and Utah Aspire Plus Science for 9 and 10. You can reach out to me for those as well. Just like Katie as well, I have another hat at USBE. I'm also a program manager for Assessment to Achievement. So my availability on the phone is definitely small, but please always reach out over email if you've got any questions about those assessments. The Science one-pager is also listed in a resource here. There's some frequently asked questions, what's the purpose of these assessments, and things like that. That's listed there for RISE and UA+. And then if you're interested, or if you have teachers within your districts and your buildings that are interested in being a part of development for secondary science, there's a link there to join the listserv. This link will have them register to subscribe to the emails that I send out. And we just recently sent out some more, just like Katie was saying, to develop for our high school science test that's coming up. But anybody that's interested in development for those secondary or the 6 to 8 RISE or the 910 UA Plus assessments can submit to that or subscribe to that email list, and they'll get all of those development opportunity emails. A little bit about me. I'm a former junior high and high school science teacher. I taught for 11 years in Utah school systems. I was a student government advisor, a science fair director. I joined USBE in May, so I am a recent addition to USBE. I have 4 kids in the Utah school system. So my daughter, our oldest one, she's going to go into 10th grade. And then we have 3 boys, 1 in junior high and 2 in elementary. I enjoy traveling, music, food for sure. That's probably my favorite part of traveling, is tasting all of the awesome food and the local eateries around wherever we go. I also have a dog. She's in the top photo there. Her name is Sybil, our sweet Sybil. So she's like our 5th kid in the house. And I love to ride my bike. My husband and I both ride with a motorcycle club that we love to ride with. And my favorite thing are these cringy science puns. I used to teach when I taught biology. I had a t-shirt with a cell on it, and it was taking a photo, and it was my selfie shirt, and things like that. So cringy science puns are definitely my jam. And I'm a Dr. Pepper gal. So sorry about the Coke people in the room, but I absolutely love Dr. Pepper. So that is, and I'm also currently in my PhD program for curriculum and instruction. So I like to keep busy, but that is everything about me.
Okay, I'll try to keep this one brief. Jared's going to be our last guy in the development team here on the slides. Clearly, I'm not Jared, but he is out doing some training for Acadians Math this morning. So Jared Wright is our elementary math and science assessment specialist. His email and phone number are up there at the top as well. Jared is my counterpart for mathematics, and so he covers the lower grades. For RISE, that would be grades 3 to 5, but he's also our Acadians math specialist for K2. And then our RISE science specialist for grades 4 and 5. And you'll notice right there that, yes, math starts at grade 3 for RISE, but science does not start until grade 4 for RISE. So that's not a typo. That is there on purpose. And Jared, I don't think he has another slide, but I'll put a little additional info about him. He is our resident Jimmy John's expert on the team. So there you go, a little bit about Jared.
A little bit more about Jared. He likes to eat dessert first when we go out. And so it's kind of a riot. We go to a slice of pie or something sweet before his meal. So I think it's kind of fun. He's a fun person to work with, and he's been at USBE for a long time now. Also, he's been there for a while. Our administrative team, it's our job, as like we said, to collaborate and partner with you guys, and we work hard to do that. So we're going to let them go through and introduce themselves. And just to get on the record, I'm a Coke Zero guy. Got to be, I'll drink Diet Coke, but Coke Zero tastes a lot more like regular Coke to me. So. And if I need it, Dr. Pepper's not bad either. Just saying, you can go both. It's possible. So moving on, let's hear from the administration team here.
Hi, my name is Angela Battaglia. Sorry, I've been sick for like 2 weeks, so I'm just croaking out what I can. I have been the NAEP coordinator, which is the National Assessment of Educational Progress, for at least 16 years, coming up in November. I know pretty much all things NAEP. I officially have the best position in the agency. So I've got about 5 more years, and then you guys can all arm wrestle for the job. But in the meantime, if you have any questions about NAEP, don't spend much time trying to find answers. Just come right to me, and I can help you pretty quickly. And if not, I know who to find out answers from. So don't waste a lot of time on it. My assessment this year is big. I've got about 200 schools that we're testing. A test runs end of January through almost the end of March. The schools, I lied at the bottom there. I see that I had put in red that you've been notified. Schools have not been notified yet. Districts have been notified. I'm going to be reaching out to schools in the next week. Obviously, with all the federal cutbacks, things are going much slower this year. We'll be testing 4th and 8th graders in reading, math, civics, U.S. history. Students will only take an assessment in one of those subjects. So things are running a little bit differently if you're at all familiar, but we are doing a technology survey, and that heads to the districts. You should all have it by now at the district level, and those surveys need to be answered, and you need to register for the assessment management system. I'll send out a heads up to you prior to emailing the schools. That way you can kind of head off your schools that are going to get notified, because you'll probably receive numerous phone calls from your schools asking if this is real and if they have to participate. So the answer is yes, it is real, and yes, they do have to participate. So any questions, just head them over to me and I can help you. And again, the districts have been notified, schools, that will happen in the next week or two. So thanks, and I look forward to working with all of you next year.
Okay, Scott, you want me to do Brittany's slides?
Yes, please.
Okay, so Brittany, unfortunately, as we probably can all relate to, had a little emergency as a mom to some little ones. So she had to leave our session this morning, but she is our accountability specialist. And here is her contact information. If you have any questions regarding the Utah accountability information, she keeps our technical manual linked here for you. And that can be a great resource for you, especially if you're a new assessment director, to refer to for USBE accountability policy. She also maintains our Utah School Report Card to ensure it meets our federal accountability requirements. And then on her next slide, a little bit about her. She is happily married and has 2 sweet little boys. She just had a little one a couple of months ago. She enjoys reading and listening to books and podcasts. She is on the Diet Coke side of things here at USBE, and enjoys a few mindless scrolling of TikTok and watching some reality TV shows. So that is who you'll reach out to for any accountability questions.
The learning lesson is get everything. Yesterday you got everything out first before you started making.
Hello. I'm Elise Fry. I'm the Test Administration and Formative Assessment Specialist with USBE. I started working here 4 years ago. Prior to that, I was with Washington County School District, where I spent 17 years in the classroom. I taught pretty much all content areas with the exception of CTE at the middle level, and did some dabbling in administration. With USBE, I work as the program manager for 6 different systems. So RISE, Utah Aspire Plus, ACT, SHMOOP, which is an accompanying practice tool for ACT, UTIPS, and STAMP. And that is actually the new test replacing Apple for students who are enrolled in dual immersion courses. Okay, a little bit about me. I've been married for 18 years and have 2 daughters, Melly and Briolette. They attend schools in Georgia District and are super excited to return to school next week. They're really sad that many people have already gone back and they're still hanging out. When I'm not working or shuttling my kids to all of their activities and watching them perform, I enjoy musical theater, swimming, crafting of most kinds, ice cream, a travel as well, especially a Disney trip, and I'm definitely Team Diet Coke. Hi, I am Audrey George, and I am actually on the CTE team, and I'm kind of a stepchild here on the assessment team. So I cross both. So if you're in the CTE world, I am in charge of all the skill certifications. I work closely with UScience. I came over to USBE about 1.5 years ago from the juvenile court, where I spent 20 years. So if you have any questions or you work with any of the facilities the juvenile court deals with, I have lots of ins there. So a few of my favorite things: Africa. I spend a lot of time there whenever I can, and I love snakes. So if there's any reptile lovers out there, we should be friends. I'm not a Diet Coke. I'm a Dr. Pepper girl. And what else? Oh, I love a good K-drama. So if anybody out there is watching K-dramas, again, we should be friends.
Okay, this is Jessica again, but I am going to introduce Tracy. She is out at the office this week. So Tracy is one of our special education assessment specialists. If you have any questions around assessments, accessibility, or accommodations for the assessments listed here, Tracy is going to be your point of contact, and there is her email. That is definitely the best way to reach her. Next slide. So prior to coming to USBE, Tracy served as a special education teacher with 7th, 8th, and 9th grade students, and she specifically has experience working with students with significant cognitive disabilities. She will be at USBE for 10 years this coming January, and this next one is hard for me because I am not a boy mom, but yeah, she's a boy mom. She has a son who's 12, and I know she's been carpooling him around to a lot of fun camps this summer. She is an Auburn fan, and I definitely know she loves to be outdoors, and they do a lot of boating, fishing, skiing, bird hunting, and I know for a fact that Tracy has 2 dogs that they take hunting frequently. I know a lot about Tracy's hunting dogs, so a little bit about Tracy.
Oh, hi. I'm Maureen Rushing. I'm the assessment data specialist, and I deal with student rostering for pretty much every assessment we are going to talk about in today's training, with the exception of PEEP and KEEP. Those are all Dallas all day long. I also every year determine the nominees for the National Blue Ribbon Schools Award. I have 2 adult kids, 2 cats. I love some traveling too, and you can count me on Team Diet Dr. Pepper. That's my jam.
Okay, now I'm going to speak for myself. I am Jessica Wilhelm. I am the other special education assessment specialist, and so I oversee different assessments as opposed to Tracy. So you always want to check who's the point of contact. So a little bit about me professionally. I started my career as a special education teacher, and I taught 4th through 8th grade, all subjects. And I am originally from Texas. In Texas, I was also an educational diagnostician for most of my career. And then I was a special education coordinator before my husband decided to move us to beautiful Utah. And then I joined USBE in the fall of 2021. Next slide. So I am born and raised in Texas. I have 6 daughters. 3 of them are adults, thank goodness. And then I have 3 kids that will be in Jordan ISD again this year, and they are all at one elementary school. So I am very, very excited about that. I am going to thoroughly enjoy these next couple of years with all of my kids at one school. And then I also have one beautiful, sweet granddaughter who just turned a year old. In my spare time, I love lifting weights, watching true crime, little antique shopping, hiking. I'm a Diet Coke fan, and I haven't found it in Utah, but I frequently travel back to Texas, and I get my fill of my favorite Tex-Mex and barbecue. We're a Cubs family. We love going to Wrigley Field and getting a Chicago dog. And I love farmers markets, collecting coffee cups. And that's all. So here are the assessments that I oversee. So if you have any questions about accessibility or accommodations for RISE, Utah Aspire Plus, ACT, any questions about the College Board, AP exams, and then our new assessment for DLI, our vendor is Avant, you will reach out to me with any of those questions.
You have to run multiple screens, and the mute never stays with the mouse. I always got to chase down my mute button. So these are the assessments we administer in Utah. So if you have questions about these, you'll be contacting either the people on the development team or people on the administrative team, but we're going to talk about each one of these assessments. Someone had put in there in the chat about the link to the slides. We are going to give you the link to the slides at the end of the presentation, and you'll also have an opportunity if you have any questions about anything in assessment. We're happy to take those questions too. And so we will get to those, I promise. So Acadians Learning is our first set of slides. And I don't know who's covering the
I
slides.
can do these since both Teresa and Dallas are out, and so is Jared. So people who work on Acadians are not here today, but the Acadians assessment is required in Board Rule R77406. There's a link to that rule there if you want to read up on it, but they are required in both reading and math in grades kindergarten through 3rd grade. Progress monitoring is optional for math in K through 3. Progress monitoring in reading is required in K through 3 for students who do not meet benchmark at any point during the year. So, and the frequency at which they have to be progress monitored is based off of their level. So if they are below benchmark, they would need to be progress monitored every 2 to 4 weeks. If they are well below benchmarks, they would need to be progress monitored every 1 to 2 weeks. So that's all spelled out in R277406, but it is required. It's recommended in grades 4 through 6. As far as rostering, all students are rostered into the ALO systems, Acadians Learning Online. All students in K3 are rostered for math, and students in K through 5, if they're in an elementary setting, K through 6, are rostered for reading. So we provide licenses for all students in K through 6 if the 6th grade is in an elementary setting or a setting where there's at least a 5th grade also at the school. Then those students are automatically rostered into the ALO system. You do not have to administer to all students in 4 through 6 for reading, but it's allowed. If you would like to administer 4 through 6 Acadians math, you have to purchase those licenses, and that can be done at a school level or an LEA level. And so you can talk with Jared about options for licensing and rostering and testing students in 4 through 6 for math. But in reading, we pay for licenses for K6. The testing windows are from the beginning of the school year until September 30th is the last day for the BOY, the beginning of year window. Middle of year window is December 1st to January 31st. End of year, April 15th to June 15th. So you can see the data entry windows are also there. Data entry is not as big of a deal for Acadians reading because as soon as you administer the assessment in ALO, it automatically, the data is entered. There's not anything separate that you have to do. But for Acadians math, there are options. Some of our LEAs have selected to go with the DMG option for data entry, which is the manual data entry option versus the ALO system. So the data entry window would apply for those people who are administering paper pencil still and utilizing DMG for Acadians math, that you would need to enter your data into the DMG system by the dates listed here. And then one other, so sorry, Megan, so sorry, on ALO, one other thing I wanted to just mention, the Acadians Learning Online is rostering currently, so any of the schools that have started already, you will not see students in your system until your 2nd day of school. So this week we had people reach out and say, hey, we're testing tomorrow. We still don't see students yet. And so we said, well, what's your first day of school? And they're like, it's tomorrow. So a reminder, you cannot test on the first day of school. We recommend waiting at least a week, but that's a recommendation, not a rule. But you do have to wait until students are rostered to be able to administer assessments, and they will not be rostered until at least your 2nd day of school. So watch and make sure, to ensure that your students are rostered, you have to make sure that you don't have any fatal errors in your UTREX submission so that your data is coming to the state, and then at the state level, our vendor is collecting that from the state. So you'll have to make sure that you don't have any errors in your UTREX submission. And then you'll have to make sure that you don't plan on testing till at least your 2nd day of school. And then if you have questions on rostering for Acadians, you can reach out to Maureen, or you can reach out to Dallas for reading or Jared for math. I think that's it.
Okay, so I want to pause on that, go back one screen, please. This is the Midas course for trainings. I do want to say WIDA, we are part of the WIDA consortium. It's part of 41 states, territories, and protectorates. So WIDA does not stand for anything. It used to stand for one thing, then it got changed to another thing, and now it's just WIDA. It's all capitalized, but not an acronym anymore. These trainings are partnered USBE and WIDA trainings. I will always announce other trainings throughout the year that are free as well for any and all LEAs. And then also there are self-paced free trainings through the WIDA Secure Portal. All right, so the WIDA assessments, there are basically two assessments. There's the WIDA Screener and WIDA Access. The screener is used to identify ELs, and this is all governed by Title III law, which is national federal law. All students, when they register, need to complete a home language survey, and then that's going to determine whether or not a student needs to be screened. Once students are screened, the rule is if a student gets a 1 to 4.9 on those screeners, then they qualify for EL services in Utah. All states have their own laws. Utah is a 1 to 4.9 qualify, a 5 or higher is considered proficient. One question I get a ton of is, can teachers refer students to be screened? Nope. The only way a student can be screened is based on the home language survey. As Scott said at the beginning of this, is we are trying to just do a quick introduction about things, and then we're going to slowly introduce the assessments throughout the year. We actually already did the screener assessment. That is recorded, and you can view that here. I just dropped it in the chat so you can see the training that we did on just screening. And then next, and then the other test is access. Access does it is an actual acronym, and now it's escaping me at this moment. Good test, Megan. And I feel like, oh, geez, I failed. But access is once a student is identified as EL, this is the annual growth and proficiency assessment that students have to take every year. You will notice that access is not on the parental exclusion form or the assessment opt-out form. Access is an assessment that is directly tied, even more so through several federal laws, to a student's civil rights. So we don't like to give students and parents the option to opt out of civil rights. Parents will always ultimately have that right, but if you encounter these tough situations, just contact myself or Tracy Gooley, because we both partner on this together. If you have questions or need help or guidance, we do have a lot of guidance on our website that can help you navigate this. It is your legal obligation to make sure that all students that are EL have the opportunity to take this assessment. So we will be doing pretty soon another training specifically geared around access. All right, the testing windows that you'll need to know. Screener testing, it's all year long. There are specific rules of when students need to be screened. When it's the beginning of the school year, you have 30 calendar days at the beginning of the school year to screen students. After that first month, basically, of school, it drops down to 10 school days. So if a student registers at your school, let's say in November, then you would only have 10 school days to screen the student if the HLS indicates that they need to be screened. Again, go see that training that I just posted in the chat, because it'll give you little specifics about when to screen students and when not. We do have the access testing dates available for you. And we'll get you an even more detailed timeline pretty soon, but the access testing window for this year is going to be January 6th through March 6th. No remote administration is available for either assessment. And again, just want to reinforce it's not on the parental exclusion form. Here's my contact again and Tracy Gooley's. Tracy specifically helps with the WIDA alternate assessments, so alternate screener and alternate access. Again, these are for our most significantly cognitive disabled students. They do have to qualify per our accessibility and accommodations criteria that's outlined in linked in the previous slides. So again, if you have questions, reach out. And then if you ever need help specifically, WIDA Client Services and DRC, who is the vendor that helps bring the WIDA assessments to life, they both have remarkable customer service. You can always contact them as well for help.
With RISE, my first piece of info is to invite you to register for the RISE training being held in a couple of weeks. The MIDAS course is listed here. Once you register, you'll have access to the Zoom link. Just as a heads up here, we do record these trainings, so if you're unable to attend, you should plan to watch the YouTube link at your convenience. I've also linked the RISE portal on this slide, so you can bookmark it if you haven't already. So RISE is for students who are enrolled in grades 3 through 8, and it is a course-based assessment. There are 4 types of tests within its system: training tests, benchmark modules, interim assessments, and summative assessments. I will provide way more information on these 4 types at the training I mentioned, but note that the benchmark modules are fixed form assessments, while the interim and summative assessments are adaptive assessments, okay? Next slide. These tests do have set availability. So with the exception of the training tests, those are always available, but you'll want to make note of these and set your test windows accordingly. All of these dates, by the way, are included in the Assessment Director Resource Guide, which is available on the assessment website. Remote administration is available for the RISE test for students who receive all of their instruction in a remote or online setting as well. This means that one course will remove the availability for a student if they're taking it at brick and mortar. So just keep that in your brain. If you have any questions, the next slide is just kind of your quick one-stop shop. Even after this one, this is still Windows, but there's just a one-stop shop list of who you can contact and what they provide guidance with. And big fat spoiler alert, you're going to see these names and roles a whole bunch over the next 4 slides. Okay, so just keep in your brain, I work with test administration specifically. Rostering and data is Maureen, and accommodations with Jessica, and then Scott does testing ethics. So with Utah Aspire Plus, we will hold a training in winter of 2026. So be watching the AD memo and attending our monthly meetings, as this is where that announcement will be made. I've included links here at the bottom to both the Utah Aspire Plus Resource Center, where there's all the documentation required for the administration, as well as ADAM. ADAM is the management system where rostering and reporting can be found. Unlike the RISE system, teachers do not need to log into ADAM for test administration. So just be aware of that. Teachers are only going to log into ADAM to view reporting upon completion of their testing components. Next slide. Utah Aspire Plus is a grade-based test for 9th and 10th graders. It provides a predictive ACT score as well as proficiency levels for its 3 components, which are reading, math, and science. These tests are all fixed form. Utah Aspire Plus components are timed through the system. Okay, next slide. So you'll need to plan to ensure that students have enough time to complete those in one sitting. It's important to note that this test will also be discontinued after spring of 2026, okay? And then the last slide, here's your list of contact for help with Utah Aspire Plus. Again, you'll notice many of the contacts are the same, but we have very specific roles in which we can provide guidance for you. When it comes for ACT, I've provided their dates for upcoming trainings. These will be attended through Zoom. I've included links for ACT Now and ACT Success sites, which are used for administration and reporting. If you don't have access to those yet, hold tight. I don't have access either, so I'll let you know when I can add you if you don't have that already. Okay. Also know that with the schedule events, it will be made available in October. All right. There's not much to share with ACT right now. So with that, if you have questions, here are your people associated with that assessment. SHMOOP, the next little piece I want to talk about, is a test prep program for ACT that is available to all Utah students in high school. So every high school student has free access to this program. So I would encourage you to share this information with the schools in your LEA. There's a few steps required to getting logged in. I'm, of course, pretty partial to the magic word this year as fry sauce, but it provides great information and documentation to guide students and educators through their site. I've included those on the next slide as well. And Scott dropped in the chat, SHMOOP can start as early as grade 8. If you have questions, SHMOOP has support lines available and you can reach out to them for more information. But this provides a one-pager for you, the website, the bootcamp guide, a data tracking guide that you can provide for students. Lots of information is housed there if you have people interested in using that tool for ACT prep. This is the SHMOOP support information that you can reach out to. You can also reach out to me and I will try to find you answers as well. For our additional assessments, we're going to start with Avant, which is the vendor for STAMP. Avant is the new test replacing Apple for students who are enrolled in dual immersion courses in grades 3 through 9. There will be a training for this assessment in late September, so make sure you register for that if you have schools who participate in USBE's dual immersion program. It's important to note here that my expertise for administration is limited to the DLI specific administration for USBE. So if your school or LEA has their own contracts, whether it be with Avant for STAMP or LTI for Apple, that actually lies far outside my knowledge base. So know that I can respond to questions that are specifically related to the dual immersion assessment that is provided by USBE. Okay. STAMP does require a little bit of pre-planning as far as technology goes because students need to have access to headsets and microphones in addition to their device. There are 4 components to the STAMP test, but know that most students are only going to take 2 of those at a time. If I remember correctly, only students in 9th grade are going to complete all 4 in 1 year, but the schedule for that is linked here on this slide, and you can refer to that or reach out to myself or Carl Bowman at any time. Again, here is your list of contacts to support for the STAMP assessment. We're happy to help you however we can. Feel free to reach out at any time. For UTIPS, this is my last one. It's a formative tool available to all Utah teachers K-12. Anybody can use this tool. I would encourage you to register for our UTIPS training that's being held next week if you haven't already. Again, this training will be recorded, so if you're unavailable to attend, you can always go back and rewatch it, but know that your attendance is always welcome, and then it's also nice because you can ask your questions in real time too. For UTIPS, a few things to be aware of. It has its own item bank, but the most popular use is that teachers can create their own items. It also has a decent selection of item types to utilize for those teacher-created assessments. It's also where we house the high school core benchmarks currently that you can use with your students if you are a high school teacher. UTIPS is loaded through Utrex, so the only thing you really have to worry about is ensuring the accounts of your teachers are current, and I will go through that process with you during that training. And then the last slide for UTIPS is just your contact card. Feel free to reach out to us at any time. Big fat secret, the UTIPS help desk just forwards to my email. So those are all me with the exception of rostering. And with that, it's Maureen's turn.
All right, rostering. So like I said before, I handle rostering for pretty much every assessment we are covering in this training, plus Utah Composed and UTIPS are formative assessments. So how are students rostered for assessment? There's 4 basic ways. We have grade-based assessments, Utah Aspire Plus and ACT, and those students rostered just based upon the grade they are enrolled in school in. Utah Aspire Plus, 9th and 10th grader. ACT, you're an 11th grader. And that's basically how you are rostered for those assessments. We also have course-based assessments, STAMP, Acadians, RISE. You have to be in the correct grade for that assessment, and you have to be enrolled in courses that have the correct core code for rostering for this assessment. WIDA is based upon a student's EL status indicated in your SIS system, and DLM is based upon a student's SCRAM record if they have that 1% flag marked in their SCRAM record. Next slide. So where do we get this information from? Student information, we get it from you. Student information comes straight from your SIS into UTREX. That's the state database, UTREX. We validate that information as it's submitted from SIS systems. So you could, if the student information has an error, then it will keep a student out of UTREX. We call those UTREX errors. You'll hear that a lot when you contact me about why a student isn't rostering for assessment. I'll say they have a UTREX error, so they aren't rostering. Where do you check for UTREX errors? That is in the data gateway. It basically is a snapshot of all the student information that we have in our database. Once your student information is in data gateway, it's passed along to our assessment vendors at the end. That's where the rostering process happens. Next slide. All right, so what happens if you sign in to an assessment platform and you don't see a student there that you're expecting? Well, here's your top 4 reasons why. They have a fatal UTREX error, as I just mentioned. Students with fatal UTREX errors do not roster for assessment. It could be that they are a new student. It can take up to 48 hours for a new student to roster for an assessment after they have been submitted to UTREX and passed without errors. Student record changes can cause students to drop off rostering for a day or two. If they change a class, if you have a term change from quarter 1 to quarter 2, if you change their address, if you change their birthday, just a lot of changes to a student record can cause them to just drop off for a day or two, and then they come right back. Core code problems. If a course doesn't have a correct core code assigned to it, then you might not see that entire course roster in an assessment platform for our course-based assessments. All right, next slide. Private and homeschool and UFA students, you are required to assess any private homeschool UFA student that requests it of you. It's by their request. You don't have to go out there and announce to every private school student out there that they can come and take an assessment from you. But you must provide the opportunity. We have a guide on how to enroll students that request testing, and just attend your AD meetings, and I will go over this process a bit more later. Next slide. Oh, and here are just the resources. You can get core code lists for each assessment, the student rostering manual, that private rostering manual can all be found here.
Okay, I'm going to briefly and quickly talk about some accommodation resources, really specifically with alternate assessment. And please note, I do not oversee the alternate assessments in Utah, but I'm going to do my best to fill Tracy's position here. First of all, here are some great resources for you to bookmark that you will likely be referring to throughout the school year. Next slide. Okay, so Tracy Gooley is actually the specialist that oversees the alternate assessments. So one thing, it's important to note that if your student is going to participate in the alternate assessment, that is not determined by you, not determined by a principal, but that is an IEP team decision. This assessment has some strict guidelines for participation. This is closely monitored by the federal policy and is specifically designed for students with significant cognitive disabilities who are no longer receiving instruction in our standards, but they are using alternate achievement standards to access their education. Next slide. Here are some very important resources to mark for your alternate assessment information that correspond with the variance assessments in Utah. And you will get the slide deck, so you will have these resources available to you to bookmark and utilize later. Next slide. Okay, so the DLM is our alternate assessment administered in Utah. Again, it is going to be a determination by an IEP team. It does meet our accountability standards that replaces a student's RISE or Utah Aspire Plus score. And it is administered for grades 3 through 11 for ELA and math, or 4 through 11 for science. There is a lengthy spring testing window in which teachers have the opportunity to administer. And there are also some benchmarks that go along with this testing prior to administration. Okay. So Maureen, I know, is going to help you out here. A lot of times, one of the more common questions with the DLM happens when students are not marked correctly. They will have a 1% flag marked in your SIS system in order to enroll in the DLM. So I know that can be a common error for many LEAs. You are going to utilize the educator portal to find information about your management information, and as far as user accounts, rosters, data, and all of that information. That is the link that helps you access that information. LEAs should be assigning what's referred to as a DTC, the District Testing Coordinator, and Tracy and Maureen can help you set up those accounts utilizing your Hactus ID. Next slide. Okay, districts will also set up teacher accounts in order for teachers to deliver this information to students. They are required to complete a specific DLM training modules every year through the DLM educator portal. And then also, I know Tracy Gooley has trainings across the state that we're going to show you maybe on the next slide. Okay, the first upcoming training is in October. You do have to register in MIDAS for this. So I would definitely disseminate this to appropriate personnel so they can get registered for that and get that on their calendar. And then Tracy is also going to be in the following locations for on-site trainings for teachers. And I know a lot of times she will, if it might be at one location, other districts might join in on that location. So contact Tracy on how to navigate that. If you have any, especially any new teachers administering the DLM, they will definitely benefit from this training. This is not an assessment you can go into without extensive training. Next slide. Here are some resources, again, that you're going to get on these slides to bookmark later and also disseminate to personnel. Next slide. And so Tracy and Maureen are going to be your point of contacts when it comes to the alternate assessment support. Okay, and
now it's me. Okay. We're getting near the end. There's hope. There's an end to this, which we hoped it would end early, because early is always better than late, right? It's always nice to give people some time back. So these are some of the resources that you've seen already, but our homepage is linked here. The assessment director site, you have a specific site just for you. And you can go in and get some information. Any information on our assessments is here on our resource page. There's an AD resource guide. We published this in January, and we're going to be publishing the new one for the following school year in January again. Some of you are still going to email us asking, when is that going to be published? And we'll remind you, we said January. But we try to get it out as soon as we can. We know schools are planning and looking forward to upcoming dates. And so this is where you'll find everything about testing dates on every assessment you've got out there. Also, a lot of these support slides you've seen already, but we went ahead and put them at the very end of the presentation also. So instead of having to scroll through the entire presentation and go, is that slide 46 or 23? I can't remember. they're all at the end of this presentation. And so you just need to go to the end and go, I want the ACT one, or I want the stamp one. And so all of that contact information and all those resources, we've actually linked them at the end. And Jolene, we're going to be giving you that link in just a second here. And so all these resources are still here. Hopefully we met our learning intentions. Hopefully you know who we are now and what assessments we develop and manage and how to access information on those and who the contacts are for those. And hopefully you'll be able to get the support when you need it and then be able to deliver that information and support to your teachers and LEAs. But the big thing, of course, is questions. In the chat, I've dropped the link for this presentation. We've had some chat questions that have gone through. But are there any other questions? If you have any questions we haven't answered, this is your chance to come off mute and ask, because that's what we're here for, is to answer your questions. Has Acadience rostering gone smoothly? Does it ever go smoothly? Maureen?
Well, it's been going pretty good this fall so far. We did have a slight delay at the beginning of this week because we had some things that weren't updating, but right now it's going really well. We are ALO on their end has to do some beginning of the school year. They have to press some buttons and do some extra things. So it's taking maybe to that second day, sometimes into a third day to get students in there. But once they're in there, it's great. We're getting teacher emails via UTREC submission. And that's been going really smoothly. I'm seeing all those emails from people's UTREC submissions go straight into ALO. That's been really great. So I would give us a solid B+ on Acadience rostering. We have had a couple of class names are looking a little different right now. Last year we had, a class name with the teacher name with an ID so that you could tell classes apart just by looking from a district or a school level. That reverted back. So right now you're just seeing the class name. We are working on that issue and we're hoping to have that resolved soon. We have to work with ALO on that one. You do have to set your LEA testing window dates in ALO in order for your students to roster. So if you don't see students in there, that's a good thing always to check. Have I set my testing windows?
Awesome. Any other questions? As always, as questions come up, we're always available to answer those questions, so please reach out. You have all that contact information now for us and for any of those resources that you need. Like I said, we're here to help you, and so we look forward to partnering with you this new school year as things are getting off to, hopefully for you, a really good start. The slides, we put the link in for the slides. I can put that link in the chat again. Those slides are available. Also, Emily is great at getting this all set up and put onto our YouTube channel, but give her a couple of days at least. Be kind. I want to make sure she has time to be able to do that. You never know how the computers are going to be nice, or if they're going to be nice or not, but we'll get that uploaded within the next couple of days, and you'll have this available on the assessment YouTube channel.
So there was one more question about teachers being rostered and then grades for Acadience and ALO. Maureen, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, we roster all students, classes, teachers, K through 6 in ALO. So if you don't administer ALO to 4th through 6th graders, you'll still see them there. They don't have licenses, so don't test them. But we don't have a way to go LEA by LEA and only roster 4 through 6 students for those that elect to buy extra licenses. So you might see extra teachers and students in there if you don't. But if you do, you'll have everybody.
Mark says he's not seeing all of his teachers. What does he need to do?
Oh, please email me and I will check for you. And if support staff and paras, those are your responsibility to add. All non-teacher users are added by the LEAs. But if you're not seeing classroom teachers, please email me and I will investigate.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here today. It was nice to see some of you who came off and put your cameras on. It's so nice to see your face and put a name to the face. Remember our AD meetings, which typically happen on every third Thursday, but not always. Look at the schedule. Those are available virtually and in person. And if you're smart enough to come in person, you might catch some apology food. You never know. I know that, for example, this next Thursday, having realized that my wife works at a food company and gets free cookie dough, I have never brought cookies into our assessment department ever. And I need to grossly apologize for that by bringing in a whole bunch of cookies. And so that's going to be one of our apology foods at the next one. If you happen to like cookies, fresh baked, and be there. So look forward to seeing you, whether it's online or in person. And like we always say, reach out if you need any help. We're happy to help you. Hope you guys have a great school year this year.